Premier League's 10 biggest wind-up merchants from Robbie Savage to Neal Maupay. The Premier League is the best league in the world, housing some of the best stars and some of the greatest teams in Europe, and the frequency of shock results highlights how competitive the division is. Many players are loved by fans for their raw talent, some are cherished for their loyalty, and some for their sportsmanlike conduct, but some are adored due to being regarded as a complete wind-up on the field. Neal Maupay's last gasp goal against Crystal Palace on Monday was an excellent example of that, as the Frenchman loves to get under the skin of his opponent and caused mayhem at Selhurst Park for his taunting celebrations in front of the home crowd. Palace have become the latest victim of Maupay's antics, but many other players have utilized a similar tactic over the years to really wind up the opponent. Here Daily Star Sport take a look at 10 of the biggest Premier League wind-ups, where else to start than with Maupay, who added Palace to his growing collection of fanbases that have been triggered by the Frenchman after causing uproar with Arsenal over previous seasons. Palace thought they were about to beat their rivals at home for only the second time since Brighton were promoted to the Premier League, but a late mistake allowed Maupay through on goal, and he took full advantage before celebrating right in front of the home fans. Brighton went wild, but so did the Palace fans for the wrong reasons, and stewards were quick to cut out a potential brawl at Selhurst as toilet rolls and flares entered the pitch. It didn't help that it was the second successive game that Brighton equalized in the final moments against Palace as the Seagulls continued their flying start to the season. Who is the greatest Premier League wind-up merchant? Let us know in the comments section below. Jamie Vardy has been nothing but a success story since signing for Leicester for just £1 million from non-league, becoming a Premier League champion and Centurion goalscorer along the way, but that's not all he's known for. Vardy loves a wind-up, and due to the amount of goals he has scored there has been many an opportunity to celebrate in such a way that gets under the skin of opposition fans. The most recent instance was against Wolves as he celebrated right in front of the away section, but Vardy has broken corner flags, created annoying dances, and also opted for a more conventional gesture as he regularly silences furious supporters. You can't help but admire Vardy, but it's made more difficult when he brutally embarrasses your team. Diego Costa was a master at winding up the opposition as he got under the skin of other players as well as thousands of fans in attendance. The Spanish striker joined Chelsea in 2014, and his petulant style of play regularly led to opposition players lashing out as Costa influenced red cards, won countless free kicks, and even earned his side penalties just for winding up defenders. He became a nightmare to play against and therefore was a nightmare to watch unless you were a Chelsea fan, and then you were loving every minute of it. What made matters worse for his opponents was the fact that Costa was a very gifted footballer, meaning that he regularly wound up defenders while embarrassing them in the process. Unlike Costa, Robbie Savage wasn't ever really regarded as world-classes, although the BT Sport pundit claimed to be world-class at times during his career. Savage was world-class at one thing though, and that was simply annoying his opponents on the field as the tough-tackling Welshman was constantly on your back during games. The former Birmingham midfielder also has a bizarre talent of being able to switch between lacking or having discipline at any given moment, as despite racking up a staggering 89 yellow cards during his Premier League career, Savage was only sent off on one occasion. This wasn't the case for his opponents though, as many couldn't escape further punishment for being wound up by Savage. Wilfried Zaha has undoubtedly been Palace's best player for a number of seasons, and the Ivorian remains one of the biggest threats from an opposition perspective, which usually leads to the winger being targeted. However, Zaha has created a pretty poor relationship with all away fans, as the emotional forward constantly gets into confrontations with opposition players and is also well known for going down rather easily when challenged. Although Zaha oozes quality, he is prone to a tantrum, and the winger is regularly booked after coming to blows with defenders. Zaha's antics have even led to a red card already this season, as an altercation with Tottenham's Japhet Tanganga riled up the defender, who couldn't contain his frustration and was sent off before Palace went on to win 3-0. If you asked 100 Premier League fans who their most hated player was over the last 15 years, it's likely that Joey Barton's name would crop up a number of times. The English midfielder had undeniable quality, but his career was hindered by his discipline, and after a reputation was built up, opposition fans and players would constantly get into conflict with Barton. Barton once kneed Sergio Aguero shortly after elbowing Carlos Tevez during City's famous title-winning match against QPR, and had famous bouts with Fernando Torres and Morten Gamst Pedersen during his career. The midfielder even fought with his own teammates as he appeared to wind up anyone and everyone wherever he went. Luis Suarez only spent 3.5 years in the Premier League at Liverpool, but certainly left his mark over the 42 months he spent at Anfield. The Uruguayan became one of the world's best strikers and is still up there with the best 7 years after leaving, but during his time at Liverpool, he wound up fans, opposition players and even managers when he had the chance. Ahead of the Merseyside derby between Liverpool and Everton, opposition manager David Moyes accused Suarez of regularly diving, and when the Uruguayan scored away at Goodison Park, he ran straight over to the Everton boss and his coaching staff and dived right in front of them. Like Vardy, Suarez enjoyed an antagonizing celebration in front of fans, but many supporters felt that justice was done, as the Uruguayan was seen crying on the pitch as Liverpool surrendered a 3-0 lead against Palace and ultimately forfeited the title. Emmanuel Adebayor is one of just 15 players that have played for both Arsenal and Tottenham, and although his hatred doesn't just lie with the Gunners, it's certainly not one that'll ever die. Adebayor left Arsenal in 2009 to join Manchester City and scored against his former side at the first time of asking, but whereas some players don't celebrate out of respect, the Togolese forward did quite the opposite. Not only did Adebayor get away with kicking former teammate Robin van Persie in the face, he proceeded to run the entire length of the field to celebrate right in front of the Arsenal fans at the Etihad before being bombarded with refreshments, coins, and pretty much anything the Gunners supporters had on them. To make matters worse, he decided to join Tottenham shortly after, as it's fair to say that Adebayor wasn't too concerned with how his actions made others feel. Roy Keane claimed that he feared no one during his career, as the Manchester United legend would go to war with his opponents on a regular basis. The Irishman was a leader, but also an antagonist, as the midfielder would constantly get into scraps with his opponents, racking up a total of 13 red cards during his time in English football, a joint record in the top division. One of Keane's most infamous moments occurred as he all but ended Alf-Inge Haaland's career with a horror challenge, as the Irishman claimed it was revenge for when his opponent made fun of his injury in a match 4 years prior. Keane is a favorite for many up and down the country as a pundit, but his personality still remains very much the same, as he adores controversy. Although currently without a club, Jack Wilshere is a Gunner at heart and uses any opportunity to express his love for Arsenal. The best way to show your love for Arsenal is by expressing your hatred for Tottenham, and whenever there was a microphone around, Wilshere was nearby. As Arsenal paraded around London, Wilshere took the opportunity to sing anti-Tottenham chants to his fans, and footage spiraled around social media, much to the annoyance of the Spurs supporters. Wilshere's career has been largely plagued by injury, but whether he has been on or off the field, he's done his best to get under the opposition's skin.